What if some of the things you avoid because they feel uncomfortable are exactly the things that help your body become more resilient? I'm talking about the right dose of stress, not chaos, not burnout, not sleep deprivation and 3 energy drinks. I mean short, controlled stress that your body can recover from. That idea has a name, hormesis, and it might be the most powerful health concept you've never heard of. It means a small challenge can push your cells, your metabolism, and even your stress response to adapt in a helpful way. But here's the catch. The dose matters. A little can train you, too much can break you. So in this video, I'll show you what hormesis actually is, bust the biggest myths, and walk through practical tools how to use heat, cold, intermittent hypoxia, phytochemical hormetins, high-intensity intervals, infrared light, and fasting. Some of them have stronger evidence than others, so I'll tell you where the science is solid and where the hype gets ahead of the data. The right kind of stress can upgrade you. Too much can break you. Here's the core idea. In biology, there's a concept called the dose-response curve. Too little of a stressor, no effect. Too much, damage or death. But the sweet spot in the middle, that triggers something incredible. Your body doesn't just recover from that small stress, it overcompensates. Think of it as a small signal that says, conditions are a little tougher right now, so your body responds by becoming harder to knock over next time. It comes back stronger, more resilient, more efficient, with better stress defenses, improved metabolic flexibility, stronger cardiovascular conditioning, and more efficient cellular cleanup through pathways like autophagy. This is hormesis, and it's happening in your cells right now, or it's not if you're avoiding all discomfort. At the molecular level, hormesis activates pathways like AMPK, NRF2, SIRT1, mTOR, and NF-kappa B, your body's master switches for longevity, energy, immunity, and cellular repair. Think of it this way. A muscle only grows if you tear it a little. Hormesis is that same principle applied to your entire biology. Now let's bust a few myths. Myth number 1. If a little stress is good, a lot must be better. No. That is how people turn a useful stimulus into dehydration, overtraining, injury, or plain misery. Hormesis only works when the dose is challenging but recoverable. Myth. Hormesis means suffering for health. Also no. You do not need to crawl into an ice barrel at sunrise while fasting for 36 hours and doing burpees. Often the best hormetic dose is boringly moderate and repeatable. Myth number 3. Every stressor has equal evidence. Not true. Exercise and sauna-style heat have stronger human data. Cold exposure has some promising findings, but safety matters. Fasting has mechanistic support and some human benefits, but it is not magic. Infrared light is interesting, but the evidence is less robust and more mixed depending on the device and the condition being studied. Useful tip. Think of hormesis like exercise for your recovery systems. If you are not recovering, you are not doing hormesis. You are just accumulating stress. Let's start with heat. Heat exposure, especially sauna-style heat, is one of the better studied hormetic tools. Repeated passive heat can raise heart rate, increase circulation, and trigger heat shock responses that may support cardiovascular and metabolic health. Some observational studies link regular sauna use with lower rates of cardiovascular events and mortality, though that does not prove sauna alone is the reason. Reviews still consider the evidence for Finnish sauna stronger than for many trendy wellness gadgets. What heat may do. It can act a bit like a mild cardiovascular workout, support relaxation, and possibly help blood pressure, sleep, and recovery in some people. But sauna is not detox magic, and sweating is not fat loss. Most immediate weight change is water loss. Practical use. Start with something simple like 10 to 15 minutes, 1 to 3 times per week, and build up only if you tolerate it well. Hydrate. Get out if you feel dizzy, nauseated, weak, or off. Who should be careful? People with unstable heart disease, heavy alcohol use, dehydration, heat intolerance, or major blood pressure issues should be cautious. Heat can be helpful, but it is still a stressor. Now, cold. Cold exposure is popular because it feels dramatic, and dramatic looks great on social media. But the physiology is real. Cold triggers a rapid stress response, including increased breathing, heart rate, blood pressure, and activation of the sympathetic nervous system. Some studies suggest cold water immersion may help with stress resilience, inflammation, mood, sleep quality, and metabolic effects, but the evidence is still limited by small studies and uneven methods. The big issue is safety. Sudden cold immersion can trigger cold shock with gasping and hyperventilation. That is one reason cold plunges can be dangerous, especially alone, especially with the head going under, and especially in people with cardiovascular risk. Practical use. Do not start with a macho ice bath. Start with a cool shower for 15 to 30 seconds at the end, then gradually increase. Or try cooler water immersion that is uncomfortable but controlled. You are training adaptation, not auditioning for polar bear status. Important nuance. If your main goal is muscle growth, frequent post-workout cold plunges may not always be ideal because blunting inflammation too aggressively can interfere with some training adaptations. So match the tool to the goal. Cold exposure, useful tool, but not a hero test. If I had to pick the most practical, evidence-backed hormetic tool for most people, it would be exercise, and specifically interval training done intelligently. High-intensity interval training, or HIIT, gives your body a short burst of controlled metabolic stress followed by recovery. That combo can improve aerobic capacity, insulin sensitivity, mitochondrial function, and cardiometabolic health. Reviews consistently show HIIT can be effective across healthy and clinical populations when programmed appropriately. And no, HIIT does not mean vomiting in a parking lot. It means short, hard efforts, short recovery, repeated for a sensible total dose. Practical use. A simple beginner version is 5-minute warm-up, 20 seconds hard, 90 seconds easy, repeat 6 to 8 times. 5-minute cool down. Do that 1 or 2 times per week at first. On other days, keep some easy movement in your week too. It is clear that physical activity of many forms improves health, and some is better than none. Who should be careful? If you are sedentary, older, or have heart, lung, or major metabolic disease, scale the intensity and get cleared when appropriate. HIIT. Probably the most practical hormesis most people can use. Infrared light is where things get a little messy because people use the term to mean different things. Some mean infrared saunas. Others mean red light or near-infrared light therapy devices. These are not all the same. There is some evidence that infrared-based therapies may influence circulation, pain, inflammation, and possibly mitochondrial signaling. Reviews suggest biologic effects are plausible, and there may be benefits for some chronic conditions, but the overall evidence is still less established than for exercise or traditional sauna, and device quality, wavelength, dose, and target tissue all matter. So here's the honest version. Infrared light is interesting, may be helpful in some contexts, but it is not the foundation. It is the side dish, not the meal. Practical use. If you use an infrared sauna or light device, keep expectations realistic. Use reputable equipment. Follow manufacturer safety instructions. Protect your eyes when appropriate, and do not use it as a substitute for sleep, exercise, and basic health habits. Infrared light. Interesting, promising, but not a miracle. Here's the next layer of hormesis most people never think about. Oxygen, or more precisely, less oxygen. Mild hypoxia means a short, controlled drop in oxygen. Not suffocation, not danger, just enough stress to tell your body, adapt. And when that happens, your cells flip on survival programs. The key switch here is something called the HIIT pathway, your built-in oxygen sensor. When oxygen drops, HIIT turns on genes that improve oxygen delivery, build new blood vessels, and make your metabolism more efficient. You also get small pulses of reactive oxygen signals, not damage, but signals, that push your cells to strengthen their defenses. At the same time, your body becomes more efficient with energy. It learns to do more with less oxygen. And over time, you can even remodel mitochondria, your energy engines. What does that look like in real life? Better oxygen delivery, improved stress tolerance, stronger cellular resilience. This is why altitude, certain types of training, and controlled intermittent hypoxia can work. But here's the rule: mild and controlled. Too much hypoxia, too long, too intense, or without recovery stops being hormesis and becomes damage. Think of it like this: you're not trying to deprive your body, you're teaching it to adapt. Short exposure, full recovery, repeat. That's the signal. Fasting is probably the most overhyped hormesis tool online. The real idea is simple. When you go without food for a period of time, your body shifts fuel use and activates nutrient-sensing pathways. That can include increased AMPK activity, lower mTOR signaling, and activation of autophagy, which is the cell's internal cleanup and recycling system. Mechanistically, this makes sense and is well described in the literature. But here's where people get carried away. Human outcomes are more mixed than social media suggests. Fasting can be a useful option for some people, especially around structure, appetite control, metabolic flexibility, and eating window discipline. But current reviews do not show it is automatically better than every other eating strategy for weight loss, and it is definitely not a license to eat junk during the feeding window. Practical use. A simple place to start is 12 hours overnight, then maybe 13 or 14 hours if it feels easy and does not trigger overeating, dizziness, headaches, or obsession. For many people, just stopping late-night snacking gets most of the benefit. Who should avoid or individualize fasting? Pregnant people, those with a history of eating disorders, frail older adults, people with certain medical conditions, and anyone on glucose-lowering medication unless guided medically. Fasting and autophagy. Cleanup mode, not magic mode. Here's another form of hormesis that doesn't come from ice, heat, or fasting. It comes from plants. Plants make protective chemicals to survive sun, insects, drought, and stress. And when you eat those compounds in normal food amounts, your body reads them as a small signal to upregulate its own defense systems. That's why compounds in cruciferous vegetables, berries, cocoa, herbs, and spices can be helpful. Things like sulforaphane and polyphenols are basically tiny training signals, not because they fix you directly, but because they nudge your cells to become more resilient. This is food-based hormesis. Now, supplements try to do something similar from another angle. Compounds like NR and NMN are used to support NAD, a molecule involved in cellular energy and repair. Some studies show they can raise NAD levels, and they seem reasonably well tolerated in many people. But here's the important part. Raising a biomarker is not the same thing as clearly improving real-world outcomes. So the practical rule is simple. Start with the basics first: training, sleep, protein, fiber, light exposure, and recovery. Give that 8 to 12 weeks. Only then, if you want to experiment, add one supplement at a time and track what actually changes: energy, sleep, recovery, training response. Because with hormesis, the goal is not to collect more pills. The goal is to create the right signal. So what does hormesis actually do for health? At its best, It helps your body become more adaptable. You may improve stress tolerance, cardiovascular fitness, metabolic flexibility, recovery capacity, and some cellular repair signaling. But the magic is not in one biohack. The magic is in small stress plus enough recovery plus consistency. Here's the simple playbook. Pick 1 or 2 hormetic tools, not 5. Start with the smallest useful dose. Repeat consistently. Watch your recovery. If sleep, mood, performance, or energy are getting worse, back off. A very practical weekly template could be HIIT once or twice a week, sauna or heat once or twice a week, optional brief cool shower exposure, a consistent 12-hour overnight fast, optional intermittent hypoxia exposure if it's mild, controlled, and appropriate for you. Treat infrared as optional, not essential. And don't forget that hormesis also comes from food. Regular exposure to phytochemicals, things like sulforaphane from cruciferous vegetables and polyphenols from berries, cocoa, herbs, and spices, gives your cells small adaptive signals without needing extreme stress. Supplements can play a secondary role, but they should stay secondary. Focus on the big levers first: training, sleep, nutrition, and recovery. Then, if you experiment with supplements, add one at a time and judge them by outcomes, not hype. That is enough. You do not need a freezer tub, a glowing red helmet, and a monk-level fasting schedule. Use Hormesis without becoming a wellness crash test dummy.